In the glittering underbelly of late-night British television, where laughter echoes like champagne bubbles and celebrity egos dance a delicate tango, the Graham Norton Show has long reigned supreme as a bastion of unbridled wit and star-studded camaraderie. Hosted by the irrepressible Graham Norton, with his trademark flamboyant scarves and devilish grin, the show has become a rite of passage for Hollywood's elite. A place where A-listers like Tom Cruise and Cate Blanchett trade barbs and banter under the warm glow of studio lights. But on that fateful evening in the autumn of 2025, as the leaves turned ember outside the BBC studios in London, the air inside crackled with an unforeseen electricity, one that would propel the Dame Judi Dench into headlines not for her Shakespearean prowess, but for a clash that would redefine the boundaries of talk show decorum. Picture the scene. The iconic red sofa, plush and inviting, lined with an eclectic mix of guests: a rising indie director fresh from Sundance, a pop sensation with a new album dropping at midnight, and the indomitable Dame Judi Dench, the 90-year-old thespian whose career spanned from the smoky stages of the Old Vic to the silver screens of James Bond's shadowy world. Dench, with her mischievous eyes twinkling like stars in a velvet sky, had arrived in a tailored tweed ensemble, her silver hair swept into an elegant chignon, exuding the quiet authority of a woman who has commanded kings and queens both on and off stage. The audience, a sea of eager faces bathed in the soft hum of anticipation, had no inkling that this episode would unravel into a tapestry of tension, woven from threads of personal conviction and the relentless pursuit of entertainment. As the theme music swelled, a jaunty orchestral flourish that always signaled the start of Norton's nightly revelry, the host bounded onto the set with his usual effervescent energy, clapping his hands like a conductor summoning his orchestra. "Welcome, welcome, one and all," he boomed, his Irish lilt trapping around the words like a warm embrace, drawing chuckles from the crowd before the first guest even uttered a syllable. Tonight's lineup promised the usual alchemy of humor and heart, but beneath the surface, invisible fault lines were already forming, ready to fracture under the weight of unspoken truths. Dench, seated at the far end of the sofa, adjusted her glasses with a subtle grace, her fingers adorned with a single emerald ring that caught the light like a verdant promise betraying no hint of the storm about to brew. She had come to promote her latest memoir, a poignant reflection on a life in the arts titled Whispers from the Wing, a book that delved into the quiet revolutions of her personal journey, including her evolving views on social justice and environmental stewardship, topics she rarely aired in such public forums. Norton, ever the consummate showman, kicked off with light-hearted jabs at the pop star's latest wardrobe malfunction on tour, eliciting peals of laughter that trickled through the studio like a gentle wave. Yet, as the conversation meandered toward Dench, there was a palpable shift, a subtle tightening in the host's posture, as if he sensed the deeper waters ahead. The director chimed in with anecdotes from the set, praising Dench's cameo in his film as a masterclass in understated power, but it was when Norton turned to her directly, his eyes gleaming with that signature mix of mischief and malice, that the evening's trajectory veered into uncharted territory. "Dame Judi," he began, leaning forward with the poise of a fencer about to lunge, "your new book is causing quite a stir, especially that chapter on climate change. You call it the greatest betrayal of our generation." Strong words from someone who's seen generations come and go. "But tell us, do you really think us lot in the audience here flying in from afar, sipping our lattes in plastic cups are the villains here, or is it just the politicians?" The question landed like a velvet-gloved slap, innocent on the surface but laced with the undercurrent of challenge that Norton wielded so masterfully. Dench paused, her lips curving into a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes, the room holding its breath as the weight of her response hung in the balance. Little did they know, this innocuous probe would ignite a fuse that no amount of ad breaks could extinguish, transforming a cozy chat into a coliseum of clashing ideals, where the roar of the crowd would soon drown out the whispers of reconciliation. As the cameras rolled on, capturing every flicker of expression, the stage was set not for applause, but for an exodus that would echo through tabloids and Twitter feeds alike, a moment when the queen of the screen met the king of the couch, and neither would emerge unscathed. The audience leaned in, popcorn forgotten in their laps, as Dench's voice, steady as the Thames, began to weave her retort, each word a stone cast into the pond of public discourse, rippling outward to touch shores far beyond the studio walls. The heart of the evening's unraveling lay not in overt hostility, but in the subtle alchemy of mismatched expectations, where Dench's earnest vulnerability collided with Norton's polished provocation, turning the sofa into a confessional booth under siege. As the laughter from the previous segment faded into an expectant hush, Dench straightened imperceptibly, her posture a testament to decades of embodying regal fortitude, from the iron-willed Emma Bond films to the tragic Ophelia in her youth. "Graham, dear," she replied, her tone laced with the affectionate steel of an old friend schooling a wayward pupil, "it's not about villains or heroes, it's about choices. I've spent my life crafting illusions on stagey make-believe worlds where heroes triumph and lovers unite against all odds, but off-stage, the script is written in melting ice caps and choking skies, and we, the audience included, are all co-authors in this tragedy if we choose complacency over action." Her words, delivered with the measured cadence of a sonnet, carried the weight of authenticity, drawing nods from the indie director who had filmed her amid Iceland's thawing glaciers for his eco-drama. Yet, Norton's response was swift, a parry wrapped in humor, his eyebrows arching like drawn bows. "Oh, Judi, you're making us all feel like we've just auditioned for the role of climate criminal. But come on, isn't it a bit rich, jetting across the Atlantic in first class to tell us plebs to recycle our tea bags?" The studio erupted in titters, the audience, many of whom had indeed flown in for the taping, shifting uncomfortably in their seats, torn between the host's disarming charm and the guest's unflinching gaze. Dench's cheeks flushed a faint rouse, not from embarrassment, but from the spark of indignation that Norton, in his zeal for zingers, had unwittingly fanned into flame. She had arrived prepared for the usual frolic, perhaps a cheeky tale of her Bond days or a recitation from her beloved Shakespeare, but not this, not a dissection of her convictions under the guise of levity, broadcast live to millions who tuned in for escapism, not enlightenment. The pop star, sensing the pivot, attempted a bridge with a quip about her tour bus running on biodiesel, but it fell flat, swallowed by the thickening tension that now clung to the air like stage fog. Norton, undeterred, pressed on, his voice dropping to that conspiratorial timbre that made viewers feel like confidants. "Seriously though, your book's got this whole urgent call to arms vibe. Are you saying we should all ditch our cars, grow our own kale, and boycott Netflix because servers guzzle energy? I mean, where does it end?" It was here, in this cascade of questions, that the clash escalated from banter to battle, Dench's eyes narrowing as she perceived not mockery, but a dismissal of the very passions that had sustained her through personal loss as the death of her husband, the frailties of age, the quiet rage at the world bequeathing ashes to her grandchildren. "It ends," she interjected, her voice rising like a crescendo in a Verdi opera, "when we stop treating the planet's peril as punchline fodder. Graham, I've lost roles for speaking out, friends for standing firm, but I won't lose my voice to a soundbite." The room gasped collectively, the director's jaw slackening in awe, the pop star's manicured fingers twisting in her lap. Norton's smile faltered for a fraction of a second, a crack in the facade revealing the strategist beneath, who thrived on these edgier exchanges to boost ratings, yet perhaps underestimated the depth of Dench's resolve. Whispers rippled through the audience, phones surreptitiously angling for captures of the unfolding drama, as producers in the control booth exchanged frantic glances, debating whether to cut to commercial or let the rawness play out. This was no scripted spat, it was the collision of two titans in Norton's empire of entertainment, built on the ephemeral thrill of the now, against Dench's legacy of enduring truth, where every line delivered carried the echo of history's great stages. As the segment stretched perilously long, the heat between them palpable enough to warm the chilliest London night, it became clear that what began as a gentle ribbing had morphed into a mirror held up to society's hypocrisies, forcing both host and guest to confront the roles they played in a narrative far larger than themselves. The camera lingered on Dench's face, etched with lines that told stories of triumphs and tempests, her silence more eloquent than any soliloquy, while Norton, ever the quick recovery artist, attempted a pivot with a self-deprecating chuckle. But the damage was done, the seed of discord had taken root, promising a harvest of controversy that would bloom across morning headlines and evening recaps, leaving viewers to ponder not just the words exchanged, but the unspoken covenants of civility in the glare of the spotlight. Midway through the broadcast, as the studio lights dimmed slightly for a musical interlude, the pop star's soulful rendition of her hit single providing a brief oasis of melody, the undercurrents of discontent simmered, allowing Dench and Norton a momentary reprieve to recalibrate amid the applause. Yet, respite was illusory. Returning to the sofa, the host, with his unerring instinct for escalation, steered the conversation toward Dench's storied career, ostensibly to soothe, but laced with barbs that reopened the wound. "Judi, you've slayed dragons on screen, from 007's Nemesis to Tolkien's Elvesa, but off-screen, you're slaying sacred cows with this eco-activism. Remember that time you planted trees with the royal family? Charming photo op. But does it really offset the carbon footprint of all those transatlantic flights for premieres?" His delivery was pitch perfect, the punchline timed to elicit groans and giggles in equal measure, but to Dench, it rang hollow, a reduction of her lifelong commitment to a punchy aside. She had, after all, transformed her Surrey garden into a haven for endangered pollinators, lobbied Parliament on biodiversity bills, and even turned down lucrative roles to prioritize conservation work, actions born not of publicity, but profound grief for a natural world she had cherished since childhood rambles through Yorkshire moors. The audience, now divided, murmured in pockets, some applauding Norton's audacity, others nodding solemnly at Dench's evident sincerity, the indie director whispering fervent support into her ear about their shared filming in vulnerable ecosystems. As the camera panned across faces flushed with second-hand adrenaline, Dench leaned forward, her voice a clarion call tempered by tremor. "Graham, photo ops are props, yes, but the trees I plant breathe for centuries, outliving our fleeting follies. You've built a career on joy, on making us laugh at our absurdity, and God knows we need that, but laughter without reflection is just noise. I've laughed with you before, danced even, but tonight, I won't laugh off the truth that our indulgences are choking the very air we share." The words hung heavy, a rebuke wrapped in respect, yet Norton's retort came sharper, his wit turning weapon.